Welcome to the NBA Now and Then, 50, 40, 90 interview series.
What's good, everybody? I'm Uriah, along with Lucas, and a very special guest. In this episode from our 50, 40, 90 interview series, our guest will share some insight about Joel Embiid and the state of the Sixers in Philly, and he will be taking a trip into the NBA draft time machine for some fun. Keith Pompey joins us from the Philadelphia Inquirer. He is the beat reporter for the 76ers. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing well. What's up, y'all?
Hey, Keith. Long time no see, man. For those that don't know, I still host the Sixer Sense podcast, and Uriah used to be an editor. We had Keith on quite a few years ago.
Why don't we get it out the way now? Tell everyone listening around the world where they can listen to your podcast and where can they read your articles.
Oh, thank you. You can listen to the podcast with me and Mark Farzetta at Locked On 76ers podcast. You can read my work in Inquirer.com. It's like the hard copy is the Philadelphia Inquirer, but online is Inquirer.com. And you can go and get my stuff on social media, on X at Pompey on Sixers, Instagram Pompey on Sixers, Threads Pompey on Sixers, and Blue Sky Pompey on Sixers. So.
Ooh, there you go. Pompey on Sixers everywhere. Everywhere you go. So, Keith, this episode, we want to obviously talk Sixers, but for the people listening that don't know the ins and outs of your job of being a beat reporter, which is a lot, give people out there listening, what is your day-to-day routine during the NBA season, and how do you balance objectivity with long-term relationships in the league?
You know, that's a great question. It's weird because it's not as busy as it used to be, just because talking about the day-to-day stuff, just because teams have less and less practices, fewer and fewer practices. And then also what they did at the paper. So now they have two of us on the beat. So before it was just me, and now we have two people. But let's say a game day. So at the game day, you get up, you go to shoot around, you basically wait to the media availability. And then afterwards, if they say something good, you would basically write like an online story to go out there and feed the beast in social media, like early in the afternoon. Right. And then from there, you go back, you go home, you come back, and you're at the arena from anywhere from 4:00 to midnight, sometimes like 12:30. So you go to, you see the guys warm up on the court. Then from there, you go and you listen to Nick Nurse, the head coach of the Sixers, talk pregame. And then from there, you will go and you listen to the opposing coach. And then you go into the media availability in the 76ers locker room. And then after that, you have like 45 minutes and you may write up a notebook to go online quick. And then after that, you write your game story. So that's what it is. On practices, it's kind of cooler. Like it's less work. You go to practice, you write a story, and then you're done for the rest of the day, unless you're traveling. But it's nowadays with you guys, you want to listen to as many podcasts as you can. Back when I first started, there wasn't a lot of competition or people out there covering the team. So now it's like you just got to keep up. You got to. Right. See what everybody has and stuff like that. So that's where most of your time is, just, reading other people, listening to other people, watching other people. So that's where you, most of your day goes to.
My question is something that I've always wondered. When you're watching the game, do you write as you're watching like how do you write as you're watching the game?
You're typing as the game goes on. Mm-hmm. But really, so you watch the first half and then at halftime, you're typing stuff that goes on in the first half. And then the second half, you're like kind of looking up this and that. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is because in the old newspapers, they would have like a statewide edition or like you guys, a global, national, whatever. So you wanted to hurry up and file that story like within 5 minutes after the game was over with. Mm-hmm. But then you would go interview the coach, you interview players. And then you hurry up and throw some more quotes in there for like the next edition. But then after that, you would have an hour to rewrite the article. So, yeah, you are correct. Early on, you're like boom, 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 feeding the beast. And now what you have is you have a lot of people who they still do that because, as soon as the game is over, they want to get these instant observations, right, out there. Now, a question, I'm sorry, I didn't answer it, the second part of your first question.
Right.
And as far as like keeping, how should I say it? Keeping great relationships with people in the locker room. Well, I feel like when you work in our market, the market that we work in, you always have to keep it real, keep it 100.
Right.
And I feel like some of the players understand that. So let's just say a player has a bad game, a really bad game. You still have to ask that tough question. And if that player is bad, you still have to write about that he played poorly. And the reason being is, we're not, and I'm just saying Charlotte. I'm just in a small market out there. Like, we're not Charlotte. We're like the Philly market.
Yeah.
You got people in Delaware, you got people in South Jersey, and they're looking at you like, bruh, you mean to tell me you didn't ask that question? Bruh, you didn't say that,
Right.
said player had a bad game. So I feel like you have to ask that question.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the players, they're kind of expecting you to ask that question. Like I remember, who was it? It was Caleb Martin. It was a game where he made he made like a really bad foul at the end of the game, but they won the game. And it was against Indiana. And after the game, we were about to end the interview, and he was like, nobody asked a question. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. So you understand what I'm saying? It's like they expect that. And it was like, but the only reason why I forgot, because they won the game. And that was like maybe a minute left, but they ended up winning. So it wasn't as big a story as it was if they'd have lost, but he literally was expecting us to ask about the mental error that he made with a minute left in the game. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's like he wanted to get caught out there. Like, hey, what about me? I did something impactful or consequential.
And I was like, yo, he was a straight up guy. He was like, wow, y'all let me off the hook.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Well, he's coming from Miami, and I know that's probably just as tough of a market down there.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
So my next question for you, Keith, is this. What's the biggest change you've seen in sports journalism since you started, especially with the rise of social media and player-driven content?
You know what? I think the biggest change came after, it was starting to come, but after COVID. Like, if you notice, that's when a lot of stuff went virtual. Yep. And since it was virtual, I feel like a lot of people said, okay, this is our chance to get in on it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be there. I can just give commentary. So I think the biggest change has been, a lot of podcasts, and not like the old school podcast, like the podcast where, a guy had a microphone and he didn't have a camera with him. He was just talking and you would listen to him in the car. Right. Now you have people where it's like, I want you to give your opinion. Like, we watched the game. So I need you to give the opinion. Like, I don't want to hear about the X's and O's and anything like that. Just talk to me. So to me, that has been the biggest change. And it's just so different. Like, when I first started, it was the Inquirer, it was the Daily News, it was the Bucks County Courier Times. You had the Camden Courier Post, right? And then you had like a couple smaller newspapers that came from time to time. Now you look at it and you have the Inquirer, but then there's Philly Voice online, right? And then there's
Philly Metro.
What is it? All City, like the All City, those podcasters. Right. They're beat writers. Like, years ago, they wouldn't be considered beat writers, but now they are. You have Sixers Wire. You have all of y'all. So it's kind of like, it's one of those things where it just changed completely. Like, newspapers are, that's why we don't say the Philadelphia Inquirer no more. We say Inquirer.com. You know what I mean? It's just it changed a lot. It changed a lot.
Yeah, the landscape has definitely changed, and everyone has an opinion. Our podcast is not necessarily about opinions. We offer facts and we compare players from different eras. But having you on here, you've stirred a lot of opinions over the years in Philly. And a few weeks ago, maybe a little over a month ago, you were talking about Joel Embiid. And here's what you said, and I want you to elaborate on this if you can. I think Joel may know that the end is near. Rarely do you have a guy tell you how much pain and how much they're going through. Is there anything the Sixers staff or organization can do to maximize the rest of Embiid's career, being mindful of all the injuries?
I think the one thing, and let me just clarify with that. Like a lot of people say, oh my God, Keith Pompey saying he's retiring. Yeah. I wasn't saying he was retiring. What I was saying is he's probably no longer the player that he was before. You know what I mean? So it's like it could be that. But I also said, look at me. He may even be the MVP this year or something like that. Who knows?
That is
right?
True. Yep.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I wasn't saying, it got aggregated saying, oh, Pompey saying he's going to retire. No, it's just saying that he's probably not going to be the same player that he ever was. Right. Now, a great question that you asked. So, I think what the 76ers could do is kind of sort of like what the Clippers did with Kawhi. Like Kawhi only played like 37 games last year. Like he missed the first chunk of it. And it got to a point where, you look at it and say, hey, look, your body can't withstand all this. We need you for the playoffs. Right. So with Joel, it could be one of those things where, we see him. We already know he's not going to play back-to-backs. He made that clear.
Yeah.
But it could be one of those things where he rests early and then he comes back kind of like Kawhi did, like in January or something. And you don't play back-to-backs, you do all this. But what that did is it enabled him to be kind of like fresher once the postseason started and he was able to put up numbers. I think that for the guy like Joel, when we looked at him last year, he looked good after he came back from an extended break.
Yeah.
I think the problem was when he played like 6 games and then all of a sudden it just seemed like he went down a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think that is certainly one thing that they could do. I am going to share my thoughts here, Keith, because I think what New Orleans kind of did with Zion, giving him a hard cap on minutes, doing about 20 as well. I think like you said, he's probably not going to be peak Embiid anymore. But if you can get 20 and 10 out of him at this point, I think that would be a win in the Sixers book.
I had a theory about 2 years ago. Lucas can attest to this.
I wasn't going to say it because I was going to let you say it. Yeah.
Look, Brook Lopez has had a lengthy career for a reason. He stepped out to the three-point line. He's not in the paint as much as he did at the beginning of his career. I always thought, even 2 years ago, to preserve his knees and reduce the amount of time he lands on the floor, all bad stuff happens in the paint. People roll over on his knee, or people, he'll land on someone's foot in the paint. You can still post up once in a blue moon, but maybe shift his role so he's more of like a Brook Lopez type of player.
I also think that Joel also has to realize that, you can't go after every ball too. You know what I mean? He's a big guy and like diving and all this other stuff. After a while, you think that has a toll as well. But, when we look at Joel, he does, though, as the games go and when he seems like he knows his body. Yeah. And the one criticism people have on him is, man, he's 7'2". He says he's 280, but he's more than 300. Why is he out there shooting threes? You know what I mean? So, and, he knows that. He knows his body. So he does do that. The thing about it is while Brook Lopez is out there in the perimeter on offense, on the defensive side is when he's really on, in the block, right? And doing things. I do think that Joel Embiid is a little bit unfortunate at times because a lot of these injuries he gets, they always seem like flukish injuries.
They do.
And sometimes where like a teammate isn't paying attention, he's not paying attention, and they collide and things happen. And on the defensive end, that's kind of sort of like, switching over, moving over, sliding. That's where I get a little nervous for him because those are things that you really can't control. Like offensively, you know where you're going. Defensively, you're just sliding and knocking into somebody, Yeah. So that's my concern. But I do think like the hard cap, like you guys said, on minutes and stuff like that, that will be beneficial. But I also think that you got to ask yourself, what's more important? Like, can we get by without him until a certain point and then try to do it? Now, again, the Kawhi thing could be a little bit like maybe they don't want to wait that long because their team isn't as good as that Clippers team was.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that you may have to rely heavily on Maxey and the boys for a while and until Joel gets back.
My next question for you is, having covered the Sixers through the process, what do you think has been the most misunderstood part of that era?
Wow. The one thing about the process is weird. And I think you have to have some luck. And you also have to make the right decisions. And maybe the right decisions are lucky, right? So when we look at the process, the only difference between them and the Oklahoma City Thunder is that the Oklahoma City Thunder made a blockbuster trade, and in that blockbuster trade, they got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, right?
Yeah.
The 76ers made a big trade, and they came back with Nick Stauskas. And then they realized that Nick Stauskas wasn't the guy, right? So, I mean, think about it. Like, everybody's like, they're going to get Nick Stauskas, and people were excited. Now, the only thing is, it was kind of sort of that I felt like the Sixers missed on their draft picks. And the pick that they had, if we think about it, if you go back on to it, you're looking at the 76ers draft picks as guys who had higher profiles. Like, a Nerlens Noel, a Markelle Fultz, what was he? A Jaleel Okafor, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about Jay Will, both of them, like, people are like, oh, who's that? You mean they got the guy from like Santa Clara? Like who is he? Right? You know what I mean? Like, dang, maybe they know something we don't know. Now, of course, the center that they got, what's my man's name from Minnesota?
Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, Chet Holmgren. Like, everybody knew who he was, of course.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like the Sixers just missed on a couple things. And then not only that, they gave up on some guys early, too, as well, right? Trying to go through the star hunting. But, it to me, that was just the biggest thing that when you look at it, the 76ers had it set up the same way. They were acquiring draft picks. They were taking on salaries. They were doing everything. It's just that, they got the name guys. It just seems like Oklahoma City just did it. I mean, maybe they were just lucky, right? The only thing about the process, and, what the process said was, what we're going to do is we're going to go out and acquire top draft picks, and we're going to get unheard of guys and develop them. Well, when you look at it, they didn't, they developed T.J. McConnell. They developed him. Rashawn Holmes wasn't here for a long time, but you saw the growth that he had. No one imagined that he would be an Olympic gold medalist, or they would run. And I know Detroit was like, a struggling team, but he would go from being a power forward to like a wing player in Detroit, leading them in scoring, and was almost like, most improved player, candidate for that award. So these are two guys that you look at it and you say to yourself, like, man, if they'd have kept Rashawn Holmes, then they would be okay. If they'd have kept T.J. McConnell, they would have had an elite backup point guard. You know, so, but you are right. Now, Dario's still in the league, correct?
He's on. He's
out west.
Yeah, he's on the Kings.
Yeah.
They traded him for Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah. The Sixers. It just seems like, Keith, the word luck. I don't even think Sixers had luck at any point, except maybe for Tyrese Maxey getting drafted, because everything before then, Jimmy Butler didn't want to stay. I mean, the list goes on and on. James Harden. But let's talk about your particular experience, because you've been covering the Sixers for over a decade. You've seen pretty much everything. You're in the building. In your opinion, what's the most memorable game or moment you've covered involving the Sixers?
Wow, the most memorable game. You know what? It's funny. Like when you had a moment where you said, "Yo, the Sixers are really good." I would have to say the game that was really memorable was I forget what year it was, but it was when they played a Christmas game at home. It was the only time they played a Christmas game at home, and they beat the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, they beat the brakes off of them. They
that was a good
beat
game.
the brakes off of them. You know what I mean? And to me, that was memorable because when you look at it, you think about it. The Sixers never play at home on the holidays, right?
Yeah.
They're always like on the West Coast, even when or like about to go on the West Coast. But the fact that it was like they're here is on national TV. The Milwaukee Bucks were really good that year, and the Sixers just like put it on them.
Yeah,
and to me that was kind of memorable. That really was. It was.
They couldn't miss from three. They couldn't miss from three.
If I remember correctly, that was the game that it was just Maxey and Joel leading the team, but there was no third star. That was before the James Harden trade, right? Am I thinking of that game?
I don't even think Maxey was on the team at that time. I could be wrong.
Because I think that game was before COVID.
Yeah, it was before COVID.
Yeah. You're right.
COVID.
So that was a Ben Simmons.
COVID. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was a good one, man. It was like, wow, look at the 76ers.
Yeah.
You know, they're here. Because
Al Horford launching threes. Al Horford was on the team.
Yeah. It was crazy.
That being said, we're looking at the past now. We're going to talk about the future. What is the outlook for the Sixers' big three and their first round pick VJ Edgecombe for the season?
You know, it's crazy because when we talk about that, the big three, I think the outlook is hard to say what it is because we don't know when Joel's coming back, right? I think Joel knows that. You know, but he's the only one. Like typically when a coach says, I don't know, you're like, come on, dude, stop lying, right? Yeah, I know you know. But I think Joel knows when he's going to come back or has a feel for it, and they're all waiting. And we don't know about Paul George, right? Like the thing about Paul George, 2 seasons ago, he had a phenomenal year.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now you look at it and you want to know, was he injured or did Father Time start to catch up to him, right? You know, which one is it? So that's the tough part about that. You know, VJ Edgecombe, I like him. The thing is, but I do think that if Paul George plays, and a lot of people think this is crazy, the way I say it, but listen to me a little bit. But if Paul George plays and if Joel Embiid plays, I think VJ Edgecombe can be more impactful. If they don't play, I feel like VJ Edgecombe is going to score more points, but he may not be more impactful. Now, here's the reason why I'm saying that. Because VJ Edgecombe still has to work on his shot, right?
Right.
It's something he wants to do. VJ Edgecombe is a young player who's going to develop over time. But I feel like if VJ Edgecombe is playing off of those guys, he's going to get a lot of open looks. And he's going to be able to use his athleticism to go to the basket and do whatever. Because the focus is, I got to stop Maxey. I have to stop Embiid. Like Paul George, we're not trying to let him score on us. They're going to look at VJ Edgecombe and say, look, we'll live and die with that. Now, if these guys don't play and you have to rely heavily on VJ Edgecombe, I feel like he's going to score because he's going to take more shot attempts. But I feel like teams are going to lag off of him, right? And he's going to go through some struggles that way, right? So that's just how I feel. Now, I do like him. I do think his game is built for the NBA game and things like that. But to me, if I'm the 76ers, it's kind of sort of like I want to utilize him like we utilized Maxey his rookie year. Like, you know, Maxey wasn't the guy. Like, he was a guy who came in and did certain things and he developed over time. I just feel like, you know, right now, that might be the best role. And with that being said, we can see VJ, you know, getting a lot of breakaway dunks, you know, playing like how Kelly Oubre does. And what I mean by that is, like, everybody's focused on the big three, and next thing you know, he's at the rim dunking on someone. You know what I mean? Like crashing the boards. So that's what I think.
Okay. No, I think all those things are valid. And I just want to say with Paul George and his struggles, I think one of the problems he struggled with is that he was played at power forward last year, and that's not his natural position. He struggles at the power forward position. We saw it in Indiana. So I wonder how the Sixers are going to address that if they do. That's my question.
So right now you look at it and you say, okay, well, he struggled at that position. But do we have enough faith in Tristan Wofford for him to be a starter and slide Paul down to the three? And the only question I have right now is like, and you said you made a fact, you made a huge fact is, but we're looking at Paul now, and if Paul lost a step because of the knee, can he guard threes still? Like,
That's
you know what I mean? I know he's an elite defender, but can he guard them? So you're saying to yourself, where is he going to play? You know what I'm saying? So I think that may, depending on how he looks, that may be his best position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right. And if that's the case, he needs to add a little bit more muscle to his frame in order to survive in that position.
We're going to round this part of the interview out, Keith, with how you feel about the state of the NBA right now. Do you feel like it's growing? Do you feel it's stagnant? Do you think there's too much toxicity with everything going around about, too many threes? Like, what's your opinion right now of the NBA?
That's, it's weird. I think that the players are, they're more athletic, they're this and that. But to me, I don't like the overall product. And I don't think that it has anything to do with the games per se. I just don't like the gimmicky part of it. Like, I think, like, I'm not a big fan of the in-season tournament.
Like the big blue court, the big red court where you can't see it.
Like somebody's on, like,
I thought I was the only one.
No, I can't stand that.
I guess I'm just younger. I guess I like it. I don't know.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's cool, right? Now, the thing that kind of saved them, I guess, was the fact that the Indiana Pacers did go to the finals this year, so they could say, that was like a prelude to this following season, right? But aside from that, it's kind of like, okay, it's no one really. I'm just not into it, and I'm not really into the play-in tournament. You want to know why? Because it's kind of sort of like, I don't know. It just seems like it's real gimmicky to me. Like with the league, I don't know. Like the NBA is supposed to be the best league in the world, and now you're trying to be like the Euro League, right? Yeah. And do all this other stuff. And another thing I don't like, I remember back, and now again, I'm dating myself. Now, I do like the jerseys that the 76ers are going to wear this year, the black ones.
AI.
However, I remember back in the day, like teams would wear home whites and then their road like blue or red or whatever, right? Yeah. The Sixers, it was red. So when you look at the 76ers, you look at the Boston Celtics, like they used to have iconic jerseys. The Lakers too. Now it's like, what they got on? Like they look crazy. What's that? The G League team? Like, so to me, I just feel like the NBA has turned too commercial and gimmicky to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of like when you're going down the aisle of the grocery store, and instead of just being able to find your Frosted Flakes, your Cheerios, you got to go through 50 other colorful, bright boxes, and it's like, whoa, maybe it's too much. Sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
And you can't fault the commissioner for trying to grow the game and to appeal to different people. I mean, there's so much going on right now with the media rights, and you got different subscription channels like pulling at everyone. That's frustrating, and everyone can't afford to have Amazon and all the other networks. But I see your point, Keith. That's especially the court with the playing.
Just let them play, man. Just let them play. That's all I'm saying.
I don't like the play-in. I don't, because like how often do you actually get a 9 or 10 seed in the playoffs? Doesn't feel like very much. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's like all but 3 teams are eliminated. I mean, all but 3 teams are in the playoff chase. Like 3, what is it? The top 12, 10?
Yeah.
Or no, it's 10. But then you got to realize 11 and 12 is still in the hunt.
Yeah.
So it's like number 13, 14, 15, and so it's overall all but 6 teams, and those teams are tanking. So they're not trying to be in it anyway. So everyone else who's trying to win a little bit for most of the season are like in playoff contention. I'm not a fan.
All right, Keith, I have a question for you. We are about to go to the NBA draft time machine. Are you ready to enter, sir?
Yes.
And now, get ready for the NBA Now and Then draft time machine.
All right, we're here with Keith Pompey, who covers the Sixers for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And Keith, you are about to go into the NBA draft time machine. So here's how it works, Keith. 2 NBA stars from different eras are in the same draft class. For fun, if you were guaranteed that both players could have a decade-long career of equally good health, who would you pick? Our first comparison, this was season 2's first comparison. Like Lucas said, we compared Anthony Edwards and Dwayne Wade. Who would you go with, Keith?
Yeah. Tough one off the bat.
Man, you said both of them a decade?
Yeah.
Decade long, good health.
I'm going with Anthony Edwards.
Oh,
first one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people will say D Wade, and D Wade was the man, right? But if you're saying both of them, if you could say both of them, like Anthony Edwards to me is like, he's like closer to Jordan, like in like Kobe, like he's that guy, like you know what I'm saying? Like he's that dude. And he has that ruthlessness and all this and that. So I'm going with him. Like, I mean, again, and I love Dwayne Wade, but if you're telling me both of them could be on the same level, I'm going with him. I'm going with Anthony Edwards. I like Dwayne Wade a lot. And, I remember when Dwayne Wade was at Marquette and Pitt was pretty good. He did it to Pitt, right? And then he goes to Miami.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He did it to Pitt.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Miami and, they had Shaq and they had all those guys. But D Wade was the reason why they won a championship.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I think Anthony Edwards it has an opportunity to be the truth.
Yes.
Like, I really do. Like, D Wade is like, he was first ballot Hall of Fame or whatever, but at the same time, he's not like on that level of like Jordan, Kobe, this and that. And who knows if Anthony Edwards will make it, but he has the potential to be.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, next is a pair of elite Hall of Fame big men, David Robinson or Patrick Ewing.
Wow, that's a good one. I'm going with David Robinson.
Okay.
I like Pretty Pat. I used to call him Pretty Pat growing up. I think he was the guy. Like, he was the guy. But you know what? It got to a point where, like, in the biggest moments, sometimes he kind of choked. And I also liked how David Robinson was a guy that, when he always impacted the game. It wasn't always like through scoring and stuff like that as he got older, but he still made an impact and he was a winner, right? One guy won a championship, led his team to a chip and started a winning culture, where another guy, he just couldn't win the big one. Like, and people forget, against Chicago, he missed the shot. He missed the money, like
the layup.
The layup,
So you're going D Robinson.
D Robinson, yeah.
Sounds good. So the next comparison, this comparison is 2 outstanding point guards, top 75 players, but you can only pick one. 10 years of good health. Who are you going with, Chris Paul or Jason Kidd?
Wow, man, you guys come up with these crazy ones. Wow. 10 years. Dang, they both had more longer than 10 years. I think I'm gonna go with Chris Paul. I mean, but that's a close one. That's extremely close one.
Yeah.
I think that Chris Paul, he's a little bit undersized, guard. But wherever he went, like they became winners. And people got to realize James Harden gets a lot of credit for the Houston Rockets making the Western Conference Finals. But that was Chris Paul. He was the point guard. And they lost because, and I'm not saying they lost because he was injured, but once he became injured and didn't play, Golden State went on. Jay Kidd's great, but I'm going with Chris Paul.
That's fair. Okay, so we did David Robinson. Now we're doing his teammate, Tim Duncan and Nikola Jokic.
Wow, that's a good one. I think I gotta go with. I think I gotta go with Duncan.
Ooh, okay.
And the reason being is, and I know we're talking about this, but I also think that in the Tim Duncan era, like when we look at Tim Duncan, so what is Tim Duncan? Is he a center or is he a power forward? He can play both positions. Yeah. Now, Nikola Jokic, he brings the ball up. He can do all that other stuff. But I think that the center position right now is Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid and a bunch of other dudes, right?
Yeah,
I think that when Tim Duncan was out there, when he was playing he was going up against Shaq. He was going up against other people. He was going up against Kevin Garnett as the power forward position. And he wasn't really flashy, but he won, right? So to me, I'm going to go with him because I feel like he's a little bit more versatile, even though the Joker is versatile.
Yeah, yeah.
So these next two centers actually played or play for the same organization. We're talking the Miami Heat. Two big men, different eras. Who would you go with? Bam Adebayo, or would you go with Alonzo Mourning?
Alonzo all day, baby.
Oh, that was quick.
Yeah, man. When you said two of them, I thought you was going to say Shaq and Alonzo. And then I would go with Shaq. But nah, like, no offense to Bam. But, we got to realize Alonzo was like the first, like 6'10" center. You know what I mean? And he was gritty. He was tough. I'm going with Alonzo all day. Like, he was just feisty, strong.
Yes, he was.
Will.
That's fair. So the next one, they're a pair of Hall of Fame centers, both known for their off-the-court civil rights movements and both on the court for winning. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Bill Russell?
I'm going with Bill Russell.
That's right.
And here's the reason why. Kareem scored a lot of points, but people don't realize the Boston Celtics didn't win a championship until Bill Russell joined the team.
That's right.
And then the thing about Bill Russell, they said it was one game where Bill Russell played against Wilt Chamberlain, right? Mm-hmm. And he was like, they were going back and forth, scoring all these points. And then they said Bill Russell just was like tired the next day, whatever. And then they said, look, you can't do that. We need you to just be a leader, defend, and block shots. And here's something else. If you look at Kareem in his prime when he played for the Milwaukee Bucks,
I know
he went up against an old Kareem. Kareem used to torch him. Kareem didn't really torch Bill Russell like that. Like, he would get points, but it was hard. Like, just look up some videos.
Wilt? You mean Wilt?
Wilt. Wilt didn't do Bill Russell like that. He would score.
Right.
But if you look at old Kareem old Wilt Chamberlain going up against Kareem.
That's right. He did block his he twice in the same possession.
He was a killer.
It was like watching Shaq versus Dwight, kind of. Old Shaq versus Dwight.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Y'all don't want. I need to delete this video.
All right, Keith. Player you know very well. I know it's going to be hard, but you got to consider the other guy who recently retired and had his own amazing career. Tyrese Maxey or John Wall?
10 years. Wow, they're similar too. That's a tough one, y'all. It's really tough. Let me go with Tyrese Maxey, and I know John Wall was an all-star and everything like that. But when you look at how, John Wall was who he is, right? He came in, he's who he is. Tyrese Maxey got better. And you can also make an argument that Tyrese Maxey, even though played in more meaningful games, John Wall was in with the Wizards. And I know they went to the playoffs that one year and they played really well, right? And I get that. But what I'm saying is it's kind of sort of like, the Washington Wizards seems to be a team, and no knock against the Wizards, but guys go there and they play well. And then when they get traded, it's kind of like, yo, I don't like this contract. And so right now, John Wall is a better player. But if you're telling me that both of these guys are going to have similar paths 10 years from now, I think I got to go with Tyrese Maxey.
Fair. That's fair. Okay. So another former Sixer for this next one, we got Zion Williamson and Charles Barkley.
10 years of perfectly good health, Keith.
For Zion.
Yeah, for Zion.
I'm going with Barkley, man.
I already knew.
Yeah, I mean, like, my thing is, you said 10 years of perfectly good health, but, we look at Barkley. I think Barkley was, we're talking about one dude, the round mound, the rebound, he was overweight. The other guy looked like a middle linebacker playing 6'6" middle linebacker.
Defensive tackle.
Oh,
yeah. Almost, yeah. And so, I don't know. I just look at it, we look at Barkley. Barkley was an MVP one year, right? Barkley, he led, didn't he go to the finals with two different teams?
Yes.
Like, didn't he went with the Rockets once, or did they make it to the Western Conference Finals?
I think it was Western
Phoenix
Conference.
Was the only team? He took one team to the Western, and he took another team to the finals. And unfortunately with Zion, I know we say 10 years of health, but I also think that Barkley's commitment to the game speaks a whole lot louder than what Zion had, And so I think I'm going with Barkley.
Okay. This next comparison was one of our most popular episodes. We spent time comparing Trae Young to Tim Hardaway Sr. Who would you go with?
I'm going with Hardaway Sr. I think, you know what? Yeah, now I like Trae Young. I do like Trae Young. But I think Tim Hardaway Sr. is one of those guys that people forget how good he was because of the era he was in. Like, we all talk about Kyrie Irving with the dribbling. We talk about all these other guys. I mean, my man was like boom, 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 boom. Tim Hardaway was really nice. And then also, when he was in his prime, like, he played with other elite players, but he played his role, right? Yeah. He also was a guy who went to Miami and helped them win a chip, right? So, when I look at Trae Young, don't get me wrong, I like Trae Young. I think that last year might have been one of his most productive seasons because he was getting the assist total. But when we talk about small guards, I think that Tim Hardaway Jr. is a guy that doesn't get his just due because there was other elite guards in his era.
Yeah, you definitely want to listen to that one. If you're a Tim Hardaway fan, we peel back a lot of layers of their career. And that his crossover, man, so much different from Iverson's because his is tight in the box. You know basketball. Like, he wouldn't bring it all out here like I used to do. Yeah. But just as effective, a bulldog. And a 2010 guy. He could be a 2010 guy. I think he did not win a championship, though. I don't think he won a chip, though. I think that was
he wasn't on that Miami team that won it.
Gary,
I don't think so. That was Gary.
That was Gary Payton. Okay. All right. Okay.
Now, I didn't realize how many former Sixers we did this season. We have another one. 2 Finals MVPs that haven't really shined in the regular season all too much, but Jaylen Brown and Andre Iguodala.
I'm going Jaylen Brown. I mean, I like Andre Iguodala, but we're talking about Jaylen Brown, who played for the Celtics, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of sort of like, I like him. Now I know Andre Iguodala won championships and stuff like that, but I think that often is weird because they are comparable players still a little bit, but I think that Jaylen is just a little bit more of a guy that you want to go through, if you need to be. You know what I mean? Like prime example, and I know I'm getting long-winded. I think Jaylen Brown's going to have a big individual statistical season this year.
I can see
when
that.
the Sixers needed Andre Iguodala to be the guy, he just couldn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, he just couldn't thrive in that role. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's why people in Philly got mad at him.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not his game. That's not his game.
Yeah.
His best season, I think, was like 19 points per game, 18, 19, something like that.
Yeah. People are like, come on, man, come on.
Yeah, I was at one of those playoff games against Detroit, and he wasn't able to uplift that team. But anyway, let's go to this comparison. We compared two amazing shooters from the Bay Area. They played out there on the West Coast. Klay Thompson or Chris Mullin?
I'm going Chris Mullin, bro.
Ooh.
Really? Please tell us why.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're the first.
Man, Chris Mullin was cold.
He what?
Like, a lot of people don't get me wrong. Klay Thompson was like the Splash Brothers and all this and that, right?
Right.
My question is, though, and I shouldn't say this, and people are going to hate on me and stuff like this, but do you think Klay Thompson would have been as impactful as the number one option?
Ooh.
That's a really good question.
Good
No one's
point.
asked before. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
When
no
all the
offense to him,
attention's
he's
on
good.
him, does he have the tools
Yeah, like,
to
you know what I
score
mean? It's like,
throughout?
you got Steph over here doing everything, and then okay.
And KD.
So, but Chris and K,
Yeah.
And So when you look at Chris Mullin, when he was at St. John's, they had a bunch of dudes, but he was the guy, right? At St. John's, took him to the Final Four. And then when he goes to the Warriors for Golden State, he was the dude. And we're talking about, didn't he play with Tim Hardaway in them?
Yes.
So, he was the guy. So, yeah, Chris Mullin was cold, man.
Okay.
He was really nice. He was nice.
And he was a dream team. 92 dream team. Can't knock that.
You make a very valid point. We're going to stay on sharpshooters here. Another former Sixer. We have Grayson Allen and JJ Redick.
Wow. That's a good one. Now you got two Duke dudes.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy. I think I might go with Grayson Allen. And here's the reason why. Because when you look at JJ Redick, when he was with the Clippers, as good as he was, they didn't close out games with him. Right?
Ooh.
A lot. You know what I mean? At times, right? You know what I mean?
No, they would go Jamal Crawford. He's right, yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't close out games with him. So then, he comes to the 76ers, and it was one of those things where, he was good for the Sixers. He helped out a lot.
Yeah.
But the Colangelos really wanted to get a player that they could overpay and someone who would come here to make the Sixers credible. So you get JJ Redick, we overpay him, we pay him this with that. But when you look at Grayson, I think they're similar, players, but Grayson's playing all four quarters. And JJ just wasn't. You know what I mean? He wasn't. He also had the luxury of playing with Chris Paul, who makes people better. He had Blake Griffin. He had DeAndre Jordan. I don't think they were a big three. But then, like you said, he was good. But then you're right. They had Jamal Crawford, who closed out the games, and he didn't. So I got to go with Grayson.
That's a very valid point. Okay. All right.
So this next comparison we did, Keith, we compared two amazing power forwards. One of whom, shout out, Derek Coleman just followed us on Instagram. Thanks for the follow, DC. So we compared Derek Coleman to Julius Randle. Who would you go with? 10 years of perfectly good health.
See, I'm showing age. I mean, age. People forget how good Derek Coleman was too, though. But he just had an attitude thing. Tough will. Julius Randle is good, but you said 10 years of good health. I think I still may go DC. I mean, I do. Because, you look at Derek Coleman, wasn't he was the star of that New Jersey Nets team, right?
Yes,
he was.
Yeah. Him and Kenny Anderson.
And, yeah, him and Kenny Anderson. And, I just know he was, Yeah, him. I would go with him. Like, and also, no offense to Julius Randle, but even today, if you wanted somebody to go in the dark alley with you, I'm taking DC with me.
Yeah.
No offense to Randle.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
DC with me.
Yeah, DC. We do the bios for all of our players, and some of the stuff these guys go through, Keith. I mean, Derek Coleman. I mean, who knew that he grew up in the South and was dealing with racism, went to Alabama, moved to Detroit. He was basically tutored, or he was mentored by Dave Bing, another Pistons great.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So,
right?
And then he went to Syracuse. You remember that day? I was like maybe 10 or 11, but he was, man, him and Sherman Douglas, Ronnie Cycling. DC was a solid player. Number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Now we go from power forwards to centers, and we're doing 2 European exports here with Alperen Şengün and Vlade Divac.
Wow. I'm going with Şengün right now. And I know Vlade was pretty good, but Vlade was more of a role player. Like, I saw like Şengün like just, giving the 76ers the business. Like his second year in the league, and I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, he's going to be pretty good. Vlade, he played with great players, but he was more of a role player in my opinion. Şengün is like, he could be the best player on that team. Now you got KG or Kevin Durant, but I still think that he could be, moving forward, going back to being like, if not number 1, number 2.
That's a great point, Keith. That's a great
point.
Fair enough. Almost to the end, Keith. Our next comparison, we did a comp. We did Pascal Siakam and we did Lamar Odom.
Wow, that's a great one. 10 years, this and that. I'm gonna go with Pascal. And the only reason is like, I feel like their paths are different. Like, right? So Lamar Odom was a 6'10" point guard at Christ the King High School, and he was the truth. He goes to Rhode Island, right? And he's the guy. But then he goes in the NBA, and he had a couple pretty good years. Now, I know he had some problems, but he was more or less a role player. Yeah. Where you look at Pascal, he picked up basketball when he was at the monastery. Did y'all know that? He wanted to be a priest.
Yeah, he wanted to be a priest,
he wanted his dad to be a priest. So he picks up basketball at the monastery and like, let me go to another school. Yeah. So I just feel like when you look at it, like, I'm going with Pascal. I am. And Lamar won chips and all that. I get it. 6'10", he was, athletic before his time, but I like Pascal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's fair. And the end of season 2, we went with a comparison of Kawhi Leonard and Scottie Pippen.
I'm going with Kawhi.
Okay.
And here's the reason. Like, we look at Scottie was a good player, Hall of Fame player. But I'm just thinking about Scottie when Jordan wasn't around.
Yeah.
And I remember the attitudes, and he didn't really produce the way that he could have. I'm looking at Kawhi. A young Kawhi was the MVP of the finals, right? A young Kawhi, I look at it all the time where you say, when you saw when he's subbing into the game and LeBron looks back, right? You know what I mean? Like, Kawhi was the truth. Yeah. So, and we look at it. Scottie won chips with the Bulls with Michael Jordan. Kawhi won, a championship or 2. I don't know how many he won with the Spurs, but he won one with the Toronto Raptors. He led them there. And you can argue and say people were injured and hurt. All I know is he walked away with a chip. So I'm going with the glove.
And he walked on that last play when he hit that buzzer beater. I don't know if you've seen, he took 7 steps.
He walked. He walked.
I will just say I think the league was robbed by Zaza Pachulia and that little foot under, because I think he would have been an MVP, regular season MVP, possibly multiple times.
Yeah.
Keith, thank you for being with us. Please tell us Do you have any projects coming up? You got any books you're writing? What do you got going on? Are you traveling anywhere soon? What's going on?
Nah, it's weird, man. Like y'all got me in the middle of vacation, so I wish I was traveling to Abu Dhabi, but I'm not going.
Oh,
but I wish I was traveling there.
Right,
so,
right.
But I'm not. I'm on the middle of vacation right now. Just being a volleyball dad.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Keith, once again, thank you for being with us. Thank you for spending time with us on your vacation. And to all the people listening out there, you can follow Keith, Pompey on Sixers, pretty much on any platform, Threads, Blue Sky, you name it, he's on there. He's been writing for the Sixers or about the Sixers for how many years, Keith?
This is going on my 13th season.
Wow.
Time
flies,
crazy, right?
Man. Time flies. I was just watching Stephen A. being interviewed by Gilbert Arenas, and it was recent. He was going back saying he started covering the Sixers, and you guys probably crossed paths, and his, he's really ascended. And also, you've also been on Dan Patrick's show. You've done your own national syndicate. So thanks for being with us, Keith. Lucas, you got anything you want to add, buddy?
No, man, just thanks again for coming on. Glad to see you after a long time. Always welcome on the Sixers Sense, of course, when you can. And I'll keep on listening to Locked On Sixers.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, fellas. I really enjoyed this.
All right, guys. So that being said, on behalf of Lucas and Keith Pompey, I'm Uriah with NBA Now and Then, the greatest comparisons. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Deuces.